but I think it was just a good ending of that story. What we had built was of value to another startup was looking to actually venture into that space as well. It's crazy because I mean, years and years after, like it's now that I think we're now seeing people be able to like scratch the surface in that sector. When I say sector, I mean online food delivery.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Build by Vizible. I'm Yemi as always, and I'm joined with Dami, and we have an amazing guest for you today. His name is Oluwakayode Nubi, and I'd let him do a personal introduction. Oluwakayode, can you tell us more about yourself?
That sounds so weird. Yeah. Last person that called me Oluwakayode like that was my mom when I was like in trouble or something like Oluwakayode come here. So yeah, some traumatic feelings. But yeah, my name is Kayode Nubi. I go by Nubi Kay. I currently lead startups programs at Paystack, and I also run an entity. I run a syndicate, or club, or a community of operators and creators who want to back early stage startups, capital and talent and skill and network. It's called HoaQ. We've been doing that for about 2.5 years now, and so far so good. Yeah.
That's great. Can you share maybe a bit on how you got into the tech space in the first place? What made you get into tech, and then what your journey has been like?
There's a long version and there's a short version of this. Which one do you want to hear?
Let's start with the short
Yes.
version. I'm sure we'll get to the longer version through the conversation.
So I could go all the way back to primary school. But yeah, I think I'll give credit to my parents there. So my dad and my mom had this SCNO scholarship or like fellowship, sorry, not scholarship, fellowship, where they actually traveled the length and breadth of the US a while back. And they came back and they were like, oh, wow, we have to really grant our children in three things. First, travel. Second, technology, computers, and third, music. And so we were lucky to actually, like, again, get exposed to technology very, very early. Through learning software. So during the holidays, we would learn like CorelDRAW and Microsoft Paint and typing and things like that. Marvin Bacon, that was what the software is called. And then we also spend summers like dismantling and assembling computers like CPU and hardwares and stuff. And that was the start of it. We're like, oh, wow, this is really cool to see a motherboard power, again, our compute and all. And then fast forward going to Turkey, where I did my undergrad, I got exposed to the internet. So, like, I mean, the internet economy, if you will. So we're buying and trading online. And I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. Came back to Nigeria and started blogging about technology with Otech Bits, Tech Cabal back then. And then I went from, okay, do I want to be a reporter or a spectator in this now? Do I want to participate? And so jumped into actually co-founding my first startup. Lazy Appetite turned Easy Appetite at the time. And then, yeah, built that. It was hard, made a lot of mistakes. Went to grad school, came back from grad school, and decided not to do it again, but instead share for people who have the guts and courage to do so. And so right now, as an operator, an investor, is really about supporting those who have the courage and are taking the bold move to build ventures.
Yeah, it just took me down memory lane, like CorelDRAW.
And Carter kids, man, that's really amazing. You don't waka. You look up at us. You really see it. I'm really excited for this conversation because like this just means that you're gonna have a lot of gems to share. So at least when I got to learn about you and amazing work that you're doing, I kind of started learning about that from like the investor point of view. And I feel like not so many people know about, your founder, your founder experience. And so I'm very curious to know, like, what was that experience like, founding a product, building it out, and then, just deciding to just like put that aside and maybe just go back to operator life.
Yeah. I think it was, I mean, it's one experience I would never regret or trade. I think one thing I do throughout my career as an operator is that empathy, being able to empathize with builders. Because, like, yes, you can talk or you don't talk about like, yeah, founders doing this, founders doing that. But if you've not been in their shoes, if you've not actually built something and gone through the ups and downs of that, like you can just speculate and throw assumptions to the board. So again, I've gotten exposed to technology very early. I went to Turkey where I did my undergrad. I'd seen eBay and similar, like being able to order food online, being able to buy things online. I think luck also had to do because the timing of it as well. Coming back to Nigeria and seeing the e-commerce starting to take off. It was back with Sabunta and Kasuwa, who then merged to become an internet Lumia. We had Clue from Napster back then. We had Deal Day. And so the timing of it was like perfect to say, okay, everybody was starting to like sell things online until I gadgets back then at CC Hub as well. So people were selling phones, shoes, clothes, books, different things, but there was just a gap for food. Nobody was selling food. And I was like, well, everybody eats, right? And so that was the opportunity that we saw. Me and my co-founder back then, Dejo Paula, were both in University of Lagos. I had a brief stint in Unilag before I went to Turkey. So we said, let's actually put this together. Let's like just put a pitch deck together, talk to a couple of restaurants, see if we build this, would they want to get featured? And so we just like put a deck, a 10-slide deck, problem, solution, opportunity, how, like again, business model, mock-ups of what the product would look like, and just hit the streets. And we were able to get our like first 10 restaurants to say yes, if we build it, we would engage. And from there we got two other friends, Shokwe and Kunle, who came on board to build the front end and the back end of the solution. And yeah, I mean, we went on from there to acquiring more restaurants, more customers, doing things that don't scale using Twitter and disgruntled customers of our competitors, acquiring them, exceptional service, optimizing our product for mobile web. I mean, people are using like your BlackBerry browser back in those days to order food online. So you have to really be a good experience. So we did a lot of things that did work. We did a lot of mistakes as well. And I do blog extensively about this, the good, bad, and ugly from my experience with my first startup on Medium. So it was a lot of learning, and it was like, okay, I think we've made a lot of mistakes here. It's better for me to go learn this properly. And so I decided to opt in for a business school experience. And we're lucky because Max.ng at the time wanted to go into food, and so they acquired EasyAppetite to launch Max Eats, and my co-founder Deji joined as a CMO for Max at the time. Unfortunately, they shelved the idea eventually, but at least that was a good ending to the story. And I came to Ireland for business school with the plans of actually doing that for 1 year and then going back into startups. But like they say, man plans and God laughs. 10 years later, I'm still in Dublin.
Man proposes, God disposes.
Interesting. So you're not just an ex-founder, you're an exited founder.
Exited from, yeah, I was just gonna dive into that. Like that's like a gem, and especially in our ecosystem, and even like some of the companies that you mentioned are companies that like I never heard about all these things. It's really amazing to see just like how far back your experience reaches. It's just really amazing. And so for me, I'm a little curious to know what was your experience transitioning from founder to operator life? Like it must have been different. Like how were you able to kind of, you know?
I mean, it wasn't intentional. It was very, very much just being open to opportunities. So, like I said, I'd come to Dublin to do a 1 year master's in innovation management and entrepreneurship, which when people graduate from that, they either go become founders or they become like PMs in a startup, or again consulting as a possible path as well. And so while in grad school, I just saw the opportunity to actually join Accenture on the back of winning an entrepreneurship competition. And so I was like, wow, like why would I want to say no to this 6 months? In fact, it was actually first like, oh, go build the idea. It was meant to be like a startup, and we tried building it, but then there were some like just blockers around just API dependencies and partnerships and just business model in general. And so Accenture said, okay, this did not work. So would you like to do an internship with us for 6 months? And I was like, of course, like it's Accenture. So did that, and then it became a full-time job. I got exposed to a lot of financial services, and that was where I actually like got exposed to fintech for the first time, because Accenture was actually running a fintech innovation lab at the time, where fintechs would come in, pitch their products to Accenture, get advice, get them as clients as well. And I was like, this fintech thing is quite interesting, because flashback like 3-4 years before, I knew how hard it was to integrate payment into EasyAppetite. EasyAppetite, we had to work with, I think it was a bank. We had to get APIs from them, be in a sandbox for 2 to 4 weeks. A lot of like printing of paper and documents, going to their office branch. I mean, it took like months to actually turn on test payments before even going to live payments. And here I was, and people could say with an email address, in minutes, you could start taking payments from anywhere in the world. And so that really blew my mind. I think it was like like wow, this is actually going to be different. It's actually going to really fast track entrepreneurship on the continent. And from Accenture, I started looking for like opportunities I would make the case, and Stripe came along and joined Stripe like in 2016. And the goal was like, yes, eventually Stripe EMEA based in Dublin would cover Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so eventually we'll go to Africa, Abby. And so that was the hope. But then in 2020, Stripe acquired Paystack. And I was like, it's like these Stripe guys don't want to go to Africa themselves. So might as well look for opportunities to like jump ship, and made that switch. And so like to your question, it was just more of being open to opportunity. It wasn't like an intentional thing of like, oh, I want to go. In fact, I wanted to go back to being a founder after my exit and being in business school. But again, opportunity came to develop as an operator, and that opened me to fintech, and then fintech me to even more opportunities to engaging with startups. Because at Stripe, I was able to like again work with startups, support startups, and that led to like, okay, how else can we support startups beyond knowledge and network, and of course capital is a big one. And so it was like, how can we make that happen? And then entered April 2020, HoaQ was born.
Feels like a story written in the stars. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about HoaQ, but I feel we'll do the audience a huge disservice if we don't spend a bit more time just learning about your exit process and not going too deep into it. But if you can share thoughts around how it felt when the exit opportunity first came to play, maybe just take us through that journey and then how you were able to break through the other side. Just because I know some founders are very against the idea of acquisitions. They're like, what's this?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I won't be in a position to answer that question because I'd left EasyAppetite before the exit actually took place. What I could just say is that we're likely going to like close or shelf EasyAppetite, and it was really like, what value did exist? And it was okay. We had a couple of like at that point in time about 100 or more than 100 restaurants at the time, and thousands of customers who had actually like patronized one restaurant or more. And so it was that book of business that existed. Like again, rather than build Max Eat from scratch, where you go talk to every single restaurant to sign a partnership, why not just again absorb this book of business? And also, I think it was also a great way for my co-founder to find a new place to continue his journey as a founder, then turned operator as a CMO at the time. So unfortunately, we didn't walk away with bags of money or anything, but I think it was just a good ending of that story. What we had built was of value to another startup was looking to actually venture into that space as well. It's crazy because I mean, years and years after, like it's now that I think we're now seeing people be able to like scratch the surface in that sector. When I say sector, I mean online food delivery. When I see startups like Chowdeck, which happens to be a HoaQ portfolio company, and I'm excited because it's like, well, we're not able to like really make massive, here's another era or a new wave of startups that are going at it again, and here we're in a position to actually like back them and make our own dreams actually come true.
Yeah, thank you. There's no better way to pivot to the conversation around HoaQ. So, can you tell us what is HoaQ? And I'll just give high level. It's a syndicate, but like, tell us what is a syndicate? How can you describe what a syndicate is and how it works? And then maybe a bit of the HoaQ evolution.
Yeah, so HoaQ stands for half of a quarter. Like it took us 2 minutes to come up with the name. I think the philosophy behind the name was more like, half of a quarter is material enough for you to have the skin in the game. So that's 12.5%, if you will. And from around just ownership, like it's not too much that you're greedy and the others feel like you're taking too much, but it's also enough that you can have teeth in the game. But also there's this philosophy as like, okay, if you have that much, then there's an expectation that you grow that 12.5% or half of a quarter back to a whole. And so that was the philosophy of that. Okay, how can we, like I said, be of value to founders? Joey, who is my partner at HoaQ, we've both been part of startups. So he was part of a startup that got acquired by Stripe, Touch Tech. He was head of finance at that company, EasyAppetite at the time. We had mentored and worked with startups just again because we loved to and we really again want to back founders. But it just felt like, I think I'm going to quote I think is the founder of Nala, Benjamin, when he said the average African founder or startup is over mentored and underfunded. And so we were like, we really have to put our money where our mouth is. But it was going to be hard to do that by ourselves as individuals. So can we rally a community to do this? And so it was very, very experimental. In April, I mean, it was at the start of the pandemic, like when the lockdown started, and we were like, okay, let's just talk to people in our network. Joe, reach out to 50 people. I reach out to 50 people. We'll make it very easy for them. Guys, we want to like back startups. We found these two startups we want to back. Three options. Are you in for $1,000? Are you out because it's not for you, or should we talk to you like in 6 months' time when we have something more solid going? And we made it very easy for it. Just tell us, just reply with ABC, and we got 20 people who said, "Oh yes, let's do it." And so we raised our first, like I think 20,000, and did our first two deals. We're like, okay, is this a fluke? Let's try it again. And so we did it again. I raised $25,000, and we did like three deals. And we said, okay, I think this is going to be serious. Let's put in the structures in place, because we started going from our network to network of network, and so like friend of friends. And so we said, okay, this cannot be like a handshake, like I trust you kind of thing. Let's put documentation, and also we introduced like membership. Got lawyers. We had syndicate agreements in place and all that kind of all those things. And we went at it again and again and again and again on a quarterly basis. We'll bring deals to a community, and people would opt into those deals. We would host like maybe founder sessions, write memos, and people will participate. And till date, we've actually like deployed about $3.2 million in about 100 deals over the last 2.5 years. A community of about 1,000 people who've actually like just engaged with us, and about 500 who've at least done one deal with us. And so it started with very, very experimental to just see what was there and how could we really back founders beyond the talk. And we're glad to see how it's evolved over time. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. 3.2 million is like a lot of money, and 1,000 people in a community also. That's like really crazy. You folks have achieved so much in like what? It's been like what, 2 years? A little over 2 years. That's really amazing to hear, honestly. And so I think my question now is, what has like that experience just running a syndicate? What has that been
Mm,
like, right? Like, what are
yeah.
some of the interesting things that you've learned? What are some of the things that you didn't expect to be an issue
Mm,
that, is an actual issue that you have to resolve
yeah.
and stuff like that? Yeah. Curious to know.
Yeah, I think again, like just having been a founder, I think it's really helped with again that user first thinking, or just again being user obsessed, which I think is one of Amazon's values. For us, wanted it to be very like not forced. We really wanted to like again be very clear on what we were trying to do here, and so it's really about enablement for us. That's our core principle. Like, how do we enable the operator or founder, someone who's really invested in wanting to see other people succeed? How do we enable them start on their angel investment journey, and by doing so enable like more supply of capital that then enables founders to raise easily, and enables them to build what they're building that then affects themselves, their employees, and the lives of their customers. And so for us, it was like that's really been our guiding word principle, and it's really listening to see what people want and what we actually like help deliver on that promise of enablement. And so we have like our AMAs, we have our surveys, we have our like again a lot of forums that we use Slack mostly for, and we have a lot of channels where we really just want to again make sure people are getting as much value. We know people are starting their journey at different stages, and so how do we meet them where they are? And that we're thinking that into even next year, we actually start introducing like things like just the HoaQ Academy around just education. People just again get on their journey. A few things have surprised me are just again how people just grow. We see people started with just $1,000 into a deal, then did 2,000, then did 5,000, then did 10,000, and now are even like on cap tables themselves as angels, even outside of HoaQ. We have people who have gone on to actually raise funds. They started their journey with HoaQ, but now they're raising their own funds or running their own syndicates. And so we really like want to be that pipeline and that market creator, if you will, for the supply side of capital, and do it with friends as well. Like again, we really like to carry along co-investors, whether it's your Votron or Ventures platform or Future Africa. Like If we can do that, it's easier for a founder to close their round easily when we're saying, oh, it's not just HoaQ you're talking to now, like by extension, you're talking to the 6, 7 funds. And when we talk to, again, even like larger, like our later stage funds as well, we're queuing them up as well for their future rounds as well. So that's one thing. The last thing I'll just mention there is just the power of community. I've been blown away so many times on the power of community here. And I'll give you an example where a founder would just say, hey, I'm trying to just talk to someone at the FIRS or at the road safety. I will put it in the Slack channel. I kid you not, like 7 people will say, oh, my uncle is married to this, or I know this, and in different degrees of separation to what the need is. Like people just jump in, are happy to like just make those introductions, whether they invested in that deal or not. They just want those people to succeed. And so for me, it's like, wow, you can improve the odds of you succeeding because you have this following and this community you can access to unlock doors, to open doors, to be your customers, to give you feedback on your product, to pull capital together. I think it just blows my mind, like the sheer amount of, like, again, of value that you can get and unlock from a community that is all aligned to deliver on something. So that always like blows me up every time we actually put things on portfolio ask or request. Just see people like just selflessly jumping in, whether they back the company or not, just to see them succeed. And so that's been really good to see over the years.
That's pretty amazing. I think for me, when I first was introduced to the idea of syndicates, I was just thinking, oh, just like a smaller fund for money, just they're just going to provide money. But it's really amazing to see like how much value beyond money a syndicate can provide to
Mhm.
founders and to people building, which just like makes it so much more valuable to have. Yeah, it's just pretty amazing. So the example you shared just has me like in shock. I'm like, wow, that's like an actual thing. Like
Yeah, I mean,
it's
we've got to credit things like it was someone like trying to get a developer at Apple. We're like, okay, let's just put it and
really
see what will happen. And then someone says, oh yeah, I'm doing my internship at Apple right now.
wow.
So it's crazy. Like, I mean, everything, they how to say everything is 6 degree of separation. Like, it's crazy,
Yeah.
like how you just like find the paths and the maps to unlocking those things that you need, the partnership. And even within our portfolio, when you see, like, again, companies working with the other companies, cross-selling and really work, like, it really makes me happy that, again, a community of companies, a community of founders, of operators can really like make like the impossible. Like, and for me, I mean, one thing I'm still hoping for, like, for me is, so like the day where these operators, like, who are community members or syndicate members of HoaQ, even become employees at these startups that they're backing. Because I think where you see like people then say, oh yeah, like I've had a good run at Google and Airbnb and Facebook. I just want to just go join this next wave of, again, startups in Africa and all, and seeing that, again, you've been part of their journey. I mean, you're an angel in their in their round. You've seen their investor updates and all, like, okay, like, yeah, I want to go do like head of finance, or I want to be head of people, I want to just go lead their like engineering and all. That's something, again, we're yet to see, but I'm hoping, again, from a talent point of view, we see that repatriation of talent and skills from the diaspora into those African startups as well.
I'm really excited about this. Is also exciting. I think the possibilities are truly endless. I still believe that like Hulk Academy can also be like a really huge game changer for people. Like, I think it's just really great to see like the amazing things that can come out of just like the syndicates, right? So going
Yeah,
beyond the check.
yeah.
Um, so you've had experience founding a startup, you've had experience operating in a startup, and now you're running a syndicate. I'm just curious to know like how different, especially like the experience running the startup and running a syndicate. I'm curious to know like how different they are, like pros and cons.
Yeah, they're quite similar, actually. Now that I think about it, like
Yeah.
it is quite similar. Like, because I mean, you have I mean, I would say customers, maybe you have members who are, but then you're there to serve them. They're paying for a service. You have to deliver on that. The expectation, their support they have to provide is quite similar. I think perhaps the only difference here would be perhaps the motion in a syndicate is clearly defined, and it's just, again, turning that wheel over. Like I said, we have like quarterly round of deals that we do, so we standardize a lot of things. While for a startup, we really have to be adaptable and just, again, be expect curveballs every now and then. Perhaps create partner or through your customer or through the vendor as well, because again the startup was more of a marketplace kind of thing. But it's also very similar. There are a lot of similarities there as well around just again the operations, the admin. So we're very lucky to have a team of venture partners. We have a team of like someone that helps with our administration, someone that helps with community management. So yeah, same thing at the startup. Again, we had the team as well who were taking care of different areas of the business as well. So it is quite similar. Like perhaps one difference would be like we're not fundraising for ourselves. At least not yet. That could change. But we're not fundraising for ourselves. We're fundraising, putting capital for startups. So that's good. I think also perhaps there's a longer term play for the syndicate versus a startup. So the startup, I mean, you're it's a long term as well. But I mean, takes say 7 8 years for you to really like break through and become formidable as a startup. But for a syndicate, like again, you're making long term bets. You're looking at what the future would look like in the long term. And you're betting that again, founders you're backing can actually build that. So there's also less control, if you will, in a syndicate versus a startup. Startup, you're driving your destiny, and you're the one at the helm of the ship and all, while for a syndicate, you're like 2 degrees away from your destiny. So you're trusting that you're making the right bet into the right founders who then will steer the ship to the promised land. So I think being more trusting and being able to like losing your control or grip on things, I think is one thing that comes with a syndicate versus a startup as well.
It's pretty amazing. So let's talk more about the startup you fund. So I'm sure our listeners would really love to know, how you decide on what kind of startups to bring to the syndicates, like just the process and also just the criteria. Like what are some of the things that you look out for?
Yeah, so a couple of factors. So like I said, we try to be clear what we're not. So we're not a fund, we're not a we're not a invest. We don't invest in real estate or things like that. So we try to be very clear upfront as to what we are. So we invest in tech or tech enabled venture backable startups. And so what that means is that there has to be like at least some tech elements there. We have a CTO, you're building an app, a platform, software. So it has to be just tech or tech enabled. And we look at things that have like going after like large opportunities. So if you say your market size is like 1,000 people, that's not going to be exciting for us. So you have to be like large enough of a market that again you can actually like get into and then grow. And for us, the magic, I would say magic number, but we look at like this like $500 million to $1 billion. Sorry, $500 million to $1 billion dollars for market size. Although in early stages, market sizing is more of an art and science. But again, we'll just like try to make sure it's a large opportunity. Also, I would say technical know-how is a big thing for us. So where there's to be someone who actually like has either domain expertise, knows the space really well, but also has technical know-how. So because we believe like technology is really leverage, and you could go faster, you could really like iterate and build and really adapt to what customers are saying if you have that. Or like if you say that, oh, sorry, we're outsourcing all our tech to India, for example, that's going to be a harder sell. I would say the last two is actually that just that X factor, which is conviction. I really believe that the best founders are people that can actually like convince. It's a skill that I think you need because you're convincing so many stakeholders. You're convincing a co-founder to join you on this journey. You're convincing employees to join you to build what you're building. You're convincing customers to trust you, like when you're building solve their problem. You're convincing investors to give you money to actually like again scale or to scale what you're building. So there's a lot of convincing there. I think the best startups, founders or startups are the ones who actually can help build conviction pretty quickly. And so we have to look out for that as well because it's not just us, but you need to convince so many people on this journey. Even for your exit, you have to convince that you've built something of value for someone to actually like acquire or perhaps, I don't know, IPO. That's not something we look at anyway, but or someone to actually like give you more money as you're scaling and growing. So I think those things are factors I would look at. And so we try to articulate those things in our memos that we bring to the community. Yes, once there's enough buy-in, one thing that differentiates like a syndicate from a fund is that it's a people and numbers game, and so you'll be surprised. I will see some deals. I'm like, wow, this is going to be like a sure banker. Everybody will going to like oversubscribe this deal. How we bring that is all crickets. Nobody bites. And there's some deals where you're like, I don't know if this will fly, yo. But let's just bring it, yeah. We'll bring it and he oversubscribes in like in hours. And so it's really about again the wisdom of the crowd, if you will. And people will join for different reasons. They believe in it. FOMO, trending, fintech, for example. So yeah, we see that, and we just again try not to be gatekeepers and bring as many deals that actually meet the bar, and people decide if they want in or not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I think it's the way, as an investor, you look at certain deals and then you're like, yeah, no, not really. And then 3 months later, you see some round announcement on TechCrunch, and then you see some of like the investors you like best invested on it. So it's kind of the way, I think the blind man analogy with the elephant, that's kind of how it is with investors sometimes. So sometimes you see the trunk and you're seeing a rope and someone else sees a tree from the legs. Ah, yes. So still talking a bit about HoaQ. I know it's kind of public knowledge that there is a bit of a transition into a fund. So could you share a bit more about that process and maybe the synergies that then will exist between the fund and the syndicate? Just walk us through that process.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely not news. Perhaps I just give context as to like how the fund idea came about. So again, we've been doing deals with Syndicates for a couple of years now, and we've seen a lot of deals that were like, yeah, because again, like traction is one thing that we believe is a strong signal for a syndicate type deal where people actually see progress over time. But then we see some people are like, okay, like yes, you have traction in the like defined ways like revenue or customers, but the traction for us could be really like salient, well, or like that. Oh, okay, I have this partnership, I've figured this out, I've put this in place, and so we're like, okay, how can we actually like get into some of those deals earlier? Where it's like, okay, give this guy $25,000, or like I'm making up a number now, but give this guy some capital and 3 to 6 months, and it will be in a better place that the syndicates will be more interested in this. And so that was where the fun idea came about. We were like, okay, how can we come in early? Because we had seen trends with some founders where we had said no because of the stage they were in. But then we're like, okay, well, we said no to them, but then we'll say yes to them in 6 months' time or in 9 months' time. What can we say yes to them now at a cheaper price, and just work with them and be part of their journey to that point, and also the fund was actually to do three main things. First, to actually get in earlier on set deals where again we see those signals and we can actually again invest much more earlier at a cheaper valuation, and really work with the founder. Second of all was actually to double down on the deals that we do make at those stages, or with the fund, or with the syndicate, or we can co-invest with the syndicate. Because sometimes we see some deals where yes, the syndicate like comes in, but there's still allocation. So can we actually get those allocations? And then the third, in the long term, was actually like to facilitate secondaries, where okay, we see a great deal because, but then people have entered this deal like again like 36 months ago, and they want some liquidity. Can we actually just buy them out of their position if we really feel strongly about this deal again still going on to make more multiples in follow-on funding rounds? So that was the whole like strategy for the fund. And so yes, we actually like kicked that off. So we've had to like to actually restructure that in a way where Joey and myself are focused on the syndicate, and we've brought on a third party to run the fund to avoid again conflict of interest and things like that. So we're currently working through that as well right at this stage. The whole thing or the handshake between the two, like I said, is like the fund comes in earlier and then co-invest as well with the syndicate, and then also allows for liquidity events for syndicate participants as well through secondaries, and that's how we're looking at it. Yeah.
I really love how there's synergy between both, and it's not really like an entirely separate entity, but an entity that essentially makes the syndicate work better. That's
Exactly.
actually really great. So learning a bit more in your interactions with startups, as someone who interfaces with a lot of early stage startups, what's one of your favorite startups that you've interacted with and or invested in, and why? And maybe you can share one of those the one that got away stories that every investor has.
Ah, It's like you have to pick my favorite child, right?
There's always a favorite child.
It doesn't have to be a favorite. It could just be maybe
There's
one of the startups that you like a
Mm.
lot. And this could be because of what they're building, traction. It doesn't necessarily have to be because of funds they've raised.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. I like what Simple is building. So, and I mentioned Simple because we did not invest in Simple. So that Simple is also one of the one I got away. I like what Simple is building because I think for a long time we've just assumed by startups that by default that SaaS does not work in Africa. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the answer is like yes, it does work, but I think we need more startups to prove to us if SaaS is viable on the continent. So I like Simple because it tackles a problem that I think is relatable, which is again like just conversational, like commerce and support and engagement, which I think again every business needs. The more you engage with your customers, the more you can actually like target, sell, upsell. I think there's one story I heard a while back where it was like during the lockdown, barbers in New York and San Francisco were selling vouchers for future sales of haircuts, but your barber in Ojuelegba likely just locked down his shop and did not make any money during that time. And that's because again the lack of engagement that exists between customers between merchants and their customers. And so I like Simple and again building a layer that allows for that to happen, but also even allow for again transactions and like conversational commerce to also happen as well. I knew of Simple when they were like raising their family and friend round. Yeah, it just kept falling off the radar, and we'll try to mate, and it will not happen. And next thing I saw that they announced a $1 million seed round, pre-seed round, not even seed, pre-seed round. And I was like, whoop. We slept on that one, didn't we? Yeah, I think that's definitely one. I would say one big lesson though that I've taken so far from my experience so far is just again getting to know the people behind the startups, because I think we get sucked into the decks and the vibes and yeah, the valuations and yeah, the tech and stuff. But the more and more I've done this, I think the more and more I get to know the person building this and why they're building this and what's their story and what's their motivation. I think for me that's actually starting to become more and more of a stronger signal as to if it's worth backing this person or not. Because at the early stage, it's just more like, okay, do you believe this person has what it takes to figure this thing out? And in the case of Simple, it took him a long time. People think he just raised that $1 million like overnight, but I know colleagues had been at that for a very long time, for a very, very, very long time. And so, I mean, getting to know him as a person, it now made a lot of sense why it took that long, and just how his perseverance was able to make him break through all of those things, because it wasn't fintech and everyone was giving money to fintech. Nobody was really believing in SaaS at the time. And even till now, like SaaS is still the underdog, if you will. But I like that he's going at it, and I want to just see that proven that if SaaS is viable, at least bidding from Africa for its local market, but also for an international market as well. So yeah, I would say that's a favorite startup that we did not invest in, and also answers the other question as like which one I got it, which one got away.
Yeah,
you mentioned something okay, go ahead, Yemi.
I was going to say, I think I really understand what you were saying in terms of some of your reservations around SaaS. And you can clarify if that's your thought process. It's kind of the questions around, does Africa need its own SaaS business for X, or are you just competing with all the global players with Africa as your case? And this actually reminds me, one of the earlier interactions we had was after we invested in Seamless HR, which is a SaaS business, and you invited me to discuss with the HoaQ Syndicate around our thought process around it. So
Mhm.
we're just clarifying whether that's the same direction that you think in regarding SaaS, because there are some.
So yes, I mean it's a little bit of that, but I think for me it's more like, do Africans pay for SaaS? Like that's just like would someone actually pay on a monthly basis for something? Like rather than me paying you once or you invoice me for when I use something, so pay per user. Like would people actually just say yes, charge me X amount per month? So your Spotify. So even when I say SaaS, I mean like recurring payment. Like do Africans consume things and want to pay for it on a recurring basis? Your Spotify, your Netflix, and all. I think that and then should people be building things of that nature? So I think it's less of the what they're building, but how they're billing for it. Yeah.
Okay. Yemi, did you want to follow up?
I was just agreeing with what we were saying. So it's kind of like a very big consumer behavior thing, where sometimes Africans are angry that they are being charged for a subscription product. Like I've heard some people say things like a consumer would say, you know what, you want to bill me every month, I would use X bank account where if I don't want you to collect my money this month, I would just not put money in. This is actually a true story from a startup founder like, when talking with consumers. And I'm very sad to say this, but this actually even reflects how I work with my gym subscription because it's almost impossible to pause it. So I have this
Mhm.
secondary account where when I want to pay, the money is there. When I don't pay, I can't access the gym, which is fine. But
Yemi is scammer.
I don't want to be charged.
Wow, Yemi the scammer.
No, no, I mean, because like I mean, in the West, like everybody like allows you to pause your or cancel your subscription anytime you want to. So I think again, like yeah, I think there's definitely easier behavior there, but I think like just about like how do we just rethink subscription for our use case for our cultural context as well. Somebody has said like, why can't you just make it easier if I'm in a household of like three guys in an apartment. Why can't you split our Spotify subscription or split our like Netflix and all? For the gym, if I'm out of town for 3 months, why am I keep paying for my gym subscription when I can just pause it when I'm out of town? But yeah, again, like I said, I'm happy to see some people build SaaS businesses so that we can actually like at least answer the question: is it viable? Can it be done? Can it not be done? I know people are building banking products and they want to charge monthly for banking. So you're actually paying a monthly fee to bank. And I'm really excited about that. Like, let's see, will it work? Like, because if it does work, that just changes everything.
Yeah.
I,
I just want to highlight that in the West, there are also very badly behaved subscription businesses like New York Times. Just putting it out there. Why do I have to send an email to cancel my subscription?
as
Yeah.
as somebody with like an economics background, I'm just even really thinking about these things. Just thinking about like even the West, like there was a time where they didn't really have subscriptions, right? So they had to learn the behavior. So I'm wondering if it's just a thing that we just need to just like continue applying pressure and that people would learn that okay, you have to pay for things every month and then it gets normalized. Because even like moving from, and I think maybe you should be able to relate to this to somebody that kind of just like lived in Nigeria for a while and then moved to the West and had to relearn that okay, it's normal to pay for Spotify to listen to music every month. It's normal, like so when you used to using WAP trick. Yeah, it did also take me time, but it's the thing where like now, like I'm very open to like paying for products, right? So I think it might also just be a thing of applying pressure. I'm thinking of from it about it from two sides. It could be a thing of just applying pressure and teaching them a new behavior, or trying to figure out a way to modify like pricing and packaging services to meet like. But I feel like the latter is just going to be an uphill battle.
I mean, there's definitely a consumer user dichotomy here. Like, I don't think we can
Yeah,
agree on the same page. Like, the
for
Mm.
moment
sure.
Microsoft said you need to pay monthly subscriptions, like, I had to take two steps back and I'm like, what is this? Like, back then, you'd buy Microsoft, you get your license, you have it forever, you're good. And I think for markets where there's more money to spend, it's a bit less of a burden. But then you imagine, what's the Nigerian minimum wage? I don't remember, but
It's
imagine
about like
someone
18K, I think. Yeah.
exactly from 18K. You first pay for Spotify. I think is like 1.5 for one person. That's 10%. Like, what music am I listening to?
You play music, but you not eat. Make
And there's a good
sacrifices.
chance that for the average person, like so from music, for example, you're probably not listening to more than three, four, five albums on repeat in a month. Like, give me some Ashake and Burna Boy, and I'm good to go. Spotify Wrapped has proved it.
So I think that then begs the question of why we need more African businesses trying out like SaaS products because I
Yeah.
find that like these products are not priced for the average African. They are priced for like the average American who can afford to, who already spends like $10 on like McDonald's. So like spending $10 on music is fine, right? But like, you know, asking an average African to spend $10 on
Yeah,
music is going to be like, bro, why you? What are
yeah,
you doing? Which is
yeah,
why I think that we need these products because like local products would factor the average income rates would have factored the minimum wage and then try to price things in a way that is more affordable for the average Nigerian. And then through that, we can teach them that behavior. And as you know, by God's grace, Peter Obi will change our economy. As the economy improves, we're able to then like begin to charge more and then make money off of people. But this is like a very huge tangent. that
yeah,
we're-
yeah. I mean, the last thing I was just saying on this is just like, yeah, we've not had enough data to show what is possible, what's viable. It's just, I mean, there are a lot of SaaS company coming out of the woodworks now. I mean, I could think of like 10 of them on the top of my head who are doing really well from an MRR point of view. They're selling locally, so they're selling to like B2B, look other to other companies, but also internationally as well. So people are actually like patronizing them and they're charging in USD. I think it's fair to just call out that again, most of these people are building SaaS on international like infrastructure. So that their AWSs, they're using their Twilio and things like that. And if that's going to be in USD and all, like it's going to be really hard to build like locally in a viable way. I'm not pushing for like nationalism on infrastructure like China or anything. Like we have our own internet, our own servers and all. But I think for me, it's just like I'm just happy that again now we can actually like have those experiments on a large scale, have those data points to prove what's working, what's not working. Even like the seamless at Yemi mentioned, like it's good to have that and see, okay, like is that viable over the long term, and if that's, then can we just replicate that blueprint for other kind of companies? But I think again, like you said, time will tell, and time also does help change behavior. Like ordering food online was definitely not a thing. I was going to be like almost semi probable. Airbnb as well was like what strangers in my house, but now that's a norm now. So yeah, I think also time will also help with adjusting some of these things as well.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with you. On the topic of underrated or underexplored verticals, I'm curious to know like what are some of the spaces in the African tech space, like in the verticals in the African tech space that you think are underexplored and that you're maybe curious about or interested in, if
Yeah, yeah,
any.
yeah. So I think for me, I'm a big believer in like in the digital economy. So whatever will make people just participate and play a role. I think a few tenets are quite important or critical. Payments is one which we've seen a lot of progress in. It's not so fixed, so payment is still broken, in my opinion. But again, as we've seen a lot of progress. Of course, definitely on a national level, NIP, and all with again fintechs, wave of fintechs that are coming up as well, targeting different segments and all. But I think fundamentally like around opening things up, so cross border, so within between African countries and then Africa to the world, or Africa corridor with other like markets, that's still very much broken. Will crypto save the day? It remains to be seen, but yeah, that's it's early days to make that call. I think the other tenet is logistics. We've seen a lot of progress there, but I think it's more on a very heavy duty, high level kind of s- stage that there's a lot of progress that can still be made on the last mile and really on an infrastructural, even API programmatic like logistics, if you will, where it's marketplace where you're leveraging again humans, vehicles, just networks to again move goods and services. So that's one area I think we've made some progress as well, but it's lagging behind payments and it's definitely not where it's meant to be for us to really allow for opening commerce up. So yeah, that's definitely on top of the list. I think aside from those two, I would say definitely like education and health is another. I love what Alt School is doing. I think that came after Adela as well. So yeah, shout out to Adela for what they did. I think they are more like John the Baptist, and then Jesus is Alt School. Again, sorry for that not very poor analogy. Um, but I think education, just really, really like really rethinking education, educating Africans for today's realities, for what we need for a global economy, but also for like again an underground realities. What are the jobs? So when I say educate, I mean like your tilers, your bricklayers, your carpenter, your electrician. I mean that for me is also education as well, not just software and hardware. Like again, we really need those people, your artisans, your tailors, your shoemakers as well. So again, how do we rethink education and make it really scalable as such? But of course, soft power as well, like again, coding, writing, communication, those soft skills, sales, support, and things like that, BPOs and all. So that's one area. But then from a health front, I think it's just more like just accessibility, the coupling of the customer and the user. I think for a long time we just lumped those two things, but I think over time the customer for health is not really going to be the user, and so how do we solve for that, where again I here in Ireland and you, Dami, in Canada could pay for your dad's or my mom's like insurance or health insurance or checks or things like that, where again I could gift that, I could do that, I could pay for their insurance, their health insurance as well. So I think again just being able to just make that as fluid and easy as possible. I know a couple of people are going at that, your Raw Health, your Reliance, and the other, like again, Flurry, and some interesting HMOs are going at it. But I think that will be a very interesting one to see over the years as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this has been such a good conversation. From your experience, what would you say separates the top startups from others? And you've worked with, built startups, and invested in over the past decade, I would say. So, what
Mm.
would you think separates the top startups from the others?
I'll say three things. The first one is, I think I mentioned it the last time, just conviction. A average founder who can convince people would do fairly well compared to like a superstar founder who has zero like can build zero conviction. And so you can be in your head and know the best solution to something, but if you can't convince stakeholders to get on that journey with you to the promised land, I think it's going to be a happy battle. I think it's good for founders to be aware of that and see if they need to bring people on board, whether in their early teams, their early stages as well. So for Stripe, Patrick and John, they brought in Billy Alvarado, who were able to like talk to the banks and convince them, because when it was just them, it was just like, oh, just these two guys trying to be the bank. Like, what did they know? So I think it's good to be very self-aware if you have that power of conviction, and because you will need it to like hire talent. People will come work for you for half the pay. You need to convince investors to write you a check. You need to convince partners to work with you. I think it's really a superpower that I think again really separates the winners from the bunch. So that's one. I think another one is like people will focus on the business as a whole. So people get so married with the problem and solution that they forget that the business is actually people. And so culture is really a big one as well. How intentional are you about again your first 10 hires, and the culture you're trying to build, and what matters for you as a tribe, as a people, as a group? Because when you don't pay attention to that, you have problems down the line. You have co-founders issues, you have like people like leaving, high turnover, you have a very toxic and bad culture because you've just let things slide, and they never start out as bad as when they get out, but again they start little by little. Someone made a comment here, someone said something there, someone acted somehow to somebody, and they're like, yeah, but our best is our top salesperson, or is that, or is our top engineer, like if you condone those things, I mean, I heard someone say, oh, this startup were cutting corners when they were early in their early days. I thought they would clean up acts as they scaled, and I was like, what? They would clean up, like when you scale and you get investor money, you have the stakes are higher, so you cut more corners. And so I think culture, again, those who pay attention to their culture and the kind of companies you want, the company you want to build, I think really will really stand the test of time. And the last one I'll just mention is again just I'll say just like that, just that resilience and having that clear mission of vision. I think that's where like leadership comes into play as well, or even things like mentorship, and having like again role models and examples of companies and blueprints of both good and bad. I think that's very important. But again, like those being clear on those things really help focus. There's a video around Infinity Games versus Finance Games, and so when you're competing, like I know you all know this, but startups in Africa likely come in threes or fours, where you have like four companies doing the same thing. But if you keep looking at your left and your right and like, oh, what is this person do? What is this person doing? You really get into this game of like, okay, let's just like keep adding features or let's keep cutting our cost or our pricing. But if you're in this infinite game as to like, okay, I'm building for this purpose, I'm building for this vision or this mission that we have, you really get to focus and go at your pace, even though you seem slow, even though you seem your competitors are fired of you. You keep going at it, and in the long run, you're fighting against yourself, your yesterday self, to be a better self today, as a company, as a group. And so, I think just having that focus. What is our mission? What is our mandate? What do we want to do? Keeps everybody aligned. And so again, to recap, just again, conviction. If someone who can convince people to join on the journey, culture, and then you're just having that clear mission to stay focused.
That's pretty amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. As you were talking, I was just taking mental notes that oh, these are things that I want to work on. I want to really be. So thank you so much for sharing those really amazing gems. So what advice would you give to someone that is hoping to, start a syndicate or to work closely with startup? With somebody that has seen all this, like all the sides. I wouldn't say most of the sides, but you've seen all the sides. You've seen the founder side, the operator side, the investor side. As someone that's, that has that experience, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that, might want to hop into syndicate work and build their own syndicate or just continue working very closely in supporting startups?
I would say just again do it. I think it's a very fulfilling and very gratifying thing to do, especially when things work out. And even when things don't work out, like at least you know you've done something. And I know people like will feel like they are first startup, and then by the time they start their second startup, they just again pull you along as well. And so it is gratifying to help people. I think for me, it's a new level of joy and satisfaction. Like when I succeed, I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. When you are part of someone else's success, like it is pretty amazing. So that's definitely one thing. I would say just begin, but try to be clear in the value that you offer. And so I try to be clear when people actually say, "Oh, I need help." I'm like, "Can you try to articulate what you need? What's keeping you up at night? What if you solve these three things today, you'll be 10x where you need to be." And it could be around hiring, it could be around partnerships, it could be around fundraising. So try to be clear in what startups need to move from zero to one, and again, find ways in which you or your network can help deliver on that. And I'll just say again, just have fun doing it as well, like because you don't want it to be a boring task, like where it's like, oh, this is not a chore. I think there's some enjoy, some level of joy and just again happiness that should come from because it's a hard thing to build companies. And so if you then become also another point of pain or or stress for the founder, then it's not really helping. But if you're more of a, oh, this person is actually helping me navigate and build and stay light and stay happy and stay positive, I think that would be something I would recommend as well. Yeah, joint networks, there are a lot of like networks, groups, community events, accelerators, looking for mentors, syndicates, like really define your expertise and how you can really help, and just again volunteer, put your hands up, say you can help, you're available and willing to help as well. Yeah.
Yeah, listening to you, it's obvious that there are a lot of lessons that you've learned through the journey. Looking back, what's one thing that you'll change from your journey so far? Or what will you share with Mavis Bacon Nubi as a gem to hold on?
Buy Google stocks.
Apple stocks, Google stocks, buy Bitcoin in 2012.
But yeah, I think for me it's just start. I think a couple of things we drag our feet on. When we then start, we're like, "Ah, why didn't I just start a little bit earlier than when? So I think just starting. because yeah, it is daunting. I mean, again, at the start of pandemic, starting a syndicate, like what were we thinking? But it worked out. It worked out well. And I know again the fund when that started as well, it was like, geez, like we're going into a recession, we're starting the fund, like what's going on? Well, yeah, we're going through it, and again we brought in help, and we've stepped back to focus on the syndicate, so we don't let our members suffer. So just start, and I think that's one thing I would say. Just start, just start. Yeah.
That's amazing. I even hold on to that just starts because even for this podcast, there have been so many versions and reworks of this that just never happened. And then suddenly we got pushed to just start. And then here we are having great conversations with
Yeah.
amazing people.
It's pretty great. Thank you so much. I think we've come to an end. We've come to the end of this conversation, and this has been such an insightful one for me. I have learned so much. I've learned about companies I did not know of before. Honestly, like the Sabunta, I was like, oh, that's the beginning of dream. Like I didn't know that they were. So
I mean, you're
thank
an
you.
ecosystem newbie. We know this.
It's
Yeah, like,
okay, it's okay, it's okay. I joined ecosystem what 2016, 2015. Please let me hear a word. But I've learned so much from this conversation. I've learned so much from your experience. And I just like you're just giving us so much gems. And I'm just so grateful that we had the opportunity to chat with you. And I hope that we get to have more of these conversations. Hopefully another one with you, and then just and also with just really amazing people that are doing really amazing work in our ecosystem. So thank you so much for honoring our invite and for sharing, about your life and your experiences with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's definitely been an amazing journey, and I still I'm old, but I still I have a long way to go as well. So definitely looking forward to the next chapter as well. And yeah, but thanks so much for the opportunity to, because for me this has also been like somewhat therapeutic to reflect, if you will, on the journey so far. And yeah, I'm glad things have worked out so far. And yeah, despite all odds, we're here, and I'm glad you guys also launched this podcast as well. So yeah, look forward to see how all this plays out.
Thank
yeah, so like
you.
standard subscribe, like, share. If you're looking to join and start investing in startups, also, let me just put a quick hook free
Plug
ad out here. Like HoaQ Nubi, what's the website?
.club.
HoaQ
I think it's
Well,
dot
yeah,
.club.
club.
you got it,
Yeah.
Dammy. You
Nubi
yeah,
is Nubi Kay on Twitter. Like reach out and then start
Follow him
investing.
and read his Medium. Oh my god, you guys, his Medium has so many gems. Like he spoke about it in passing, but like there are a lot of gems there. If you really want to learn more about the ecosystem, his experience, like check out his Medium. But also join the Hooks Club. I'm like Hooks Hook. How do you pronounce it?
yeah. I mean, I hear we're saints now. So yeah, I guess we are saints, but yeah.
All right. Thanks for
Thank you.
staying with us today.
Abbreviation is like however you pronounce it. Should I hit you AQ? Abi?
At least you have some bloopers for your podcast as well.
Yeah. So this is great. So hook. Just 2 minutes of me trying to pronounce hook, hooks. um,
Canadian accent has failed you.
oh, well, honestly, man, like it's not there anymore.
So that's a wrap, guys. We'd love to have you at the next episode.